It's that time that we have this conversation. Welcome back to Cody Jay Uncensored, the podcast where we take a closer look at the beauty industry, peel back the layers, and dive deep into what's really going on behind the scenes. I'm your resident pro MUA and beauty expert, Cody Jay, and in today's episode, we're going to explore one of the most interesting and sometimes controversial ingredients in the world of beauty, and that's talc. Now, you've probably heard of it before. It's in many of your favorite beauty products, from the softest foundations to the most velvety blushes. You may have been using it and not even realized it. But talc is not without its risks and its critics, of course. In fact, in recent years, it's been at the center of very heated debates over its safety, its environmental impact, and possible health risks. But what exactly is talc? Why has it been such a staple in cosmetics for so long? Why are people continuing to use it? And should we be worried about using products that contain talc? Stick around as we unpack these questions and more in today's episode. All right, let's start at the very beginning. So what exactly is talc and how did it become such a popular ingredient in cosmetics? So basically, talc is a naturally occurring mineral. It's primarily composed of magnesium, silicone, and oxygen. It's one of the softest minerals on Earth, which means it can be ground into very fine, silky powders. And because of this, the powdery form of talc has very unique properties, which makes it very, very useful in a variety of applications, especially when it comes to makeup. It's a mineral that's been used for centuries, with historical records showing that people all the way back in ancient Egypt used it in cosmetics and personal care. So talc forms through the metamorphism of silicate minerals, which makes it very, very abundant in places where Earth's crust is undergoing transformation constantly. Now, while talc is very commonly mined in regions like China, India, and the US, talc is an incredibly versatile mineral with applications far beyond just beauty products. It's also used in industrial products, pharmaceuticals, and even food additives. But because of its application in cosmetics, which is of course what we're focusing on today, that's where things get interesting. Talc is known, like I said, for its very silky, smooth texture and its ability to absorb moisture, and those properties are exactly what make talc a go-to ingredient in many makeup products. So let's talk about some of the common uses of talc in beauty products. Where exactly is talc used in cosmetics and what does it do? At its core, talc is incredibly versatile when it comes to makeup. You can often find it in foundations, blushes, eyeshadow, setting powders, and even some highlighters. Its main purpose in these products is to improve texture, absorb moisture, and help your makeup last longer, which sounds amazing, of course, but again, it comes with risks, potentially. So let's break it down a little bit further. One of the main reasons talc is used in so many cosmetics products mainly is because of its absorbent nature. So when you apply makeup, particularly in warmer months or if you have very oily skin, all that excess shine and moisture can obviously become a problem. That's where your makeup starts breaking down and separating and you look like a grease ball, and nobody wants that. So what talc is basically going to do in that moment is absorb that excess moisture, all those oils. It's going to keep your makeup mattified and help it stay in place much longer. This is especially useful for products like setting powders or foundations where talc works to control oils and reduce the unwanted shiny look. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's okay if you want to walk around looking like a glazed donut with makeup on, but I don't. But another role that talc plays, especially with the formulations of makeup, is that it plays a crucial role in the texture of makeup. Have you ever noticed how smoothly your foundation or your eyeshadow applies sometimes? That's partly because of talc. It makes makeup feel velvety, helping it glide onto your skin more easily. It also aids in the spreadability of products, which is a huge key factor of makeup. This is going to ensure that your products don't cling to those dry patches or settle into fine lines, which ultimately gives you a smoother and more even finish. And at the end of the day, we want to walk around looking like we have a Facetune filter on our makeup, on our face in real life. Don't you? I do. But let's keep digging a little bit deeper into that absorbent quality I was talking about, because it really is important. This is a key factor, like I said, in talc's success in cosmetics. So if you're wondering, okay, there's a lot of products that can probably absorb oils and shine and all of that. Why does everyone keep circling back to talc? Well, let's keep talking about it. So when you apply products like setting powders or mattifying foundations, you're often trying to control excess oil, right? So again, with talc's absorbent properties, it's going to help with that. It makes it a natural choice for companies to utilize it because basically those benefits go hand in hand. So being able to reduce the appearance of shine, especially in areas that tend to get oily like the T-zone, those are the things you want to counteract as easily as possible. And again, talc is always usually that go-to ingredient to counteract that. So long story short, if you don't have talc or something extremely similar in these products, they might not last as long and you might find yourself having to constantly reach for a blotting paper or touch up your makeup. And even though makeup companies, they're out there to make money at the end of the day. Like, they want you to spend as much money on their products as possible. But if you're not satisfied with the product that you purchase, it's not doing what you want it to do, you're not going to go back and grab another bottle of foundation or another powder from that company anyway. So they still have to make sure that they're manufacturing it and formulating it in a way that actually does what you want it to do, or else you're not coming back for more. Also, don't forget though, talc doesn't just absorb moisture, it locks it into place. So it ensures that your makeup remains intact and doesn't break down throughout the day. So whether it's in a foundation, a setting powder, or blush, talc works its magic in making sure that you don't have to worry about touch-ups constantly. And for me, especially if I'm out on the town or going to an event, you don't want to stop and look in the mirror and go into the bathroom and touch up your face every 5 minutes, right? So I briefly mentioned another reason that talc is so heavily used in the beauty industry is because of its texture, the ability to improve the texture of makeup specifically. So when you apply products like powder foundation, eyeshadow, or blush, you want them to feel smooth and blendable and soft. So talc helps to achieve this by reducing any of the, let's call it grittiness in those formulations. So let's take blush, for example. You want it to glide on effortlessly, right? You don't want it to cling to certain patches of your skin. You want it to be nice and smooth, kind of glowy, very, very blurred and blended, all the adjectives. So talc's smooth texture will help to create a soft, even finish, which prevents that awkward, patchy look. It also prevents makeup from clumping, so especially in a powder form. This is crucial when you want a more natural, seamless application. So without talc, many powder products would become very cakey or hard to blend, and no shade, but a lot of people already have issues with cakey makeup. So like, why do you want to make it worse? So talc's role when it comes to basically spreadability, is that a word? It is today, if not, in your overall texture, is what makes it a key ingredient in makeup products for decades now, as far as manufacturing of makeup is concerned. At its core, talc is often what makes your makeup feel very light and breathable and easy to work with. You just didn't realize that that's what's doing it. Now, if you're sitting here listening to this podcast and you're like, wow, I've never thought any of these things about talc or maybe the chemistry of makeup, and cool, you're learning something new. And if you're like, is there more? Of course there's more. Let's keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. Insert winky face. So let's talk about talc as a filler and its stability in products. So of course, in addition to improving texture, talc also acts as a filler in many makeup products. This means basically that it's used to provide bulk into the product, giving products basically volume and body without necessarily affecting their performance. Basically give you more bang for your buck in the component for the product. So for example, in a pressed powder or a compact foundation, talc adds weight and thickness to the product, which makes it easier to apply and carry around. And at the same time, you're kind of not realizing that there's technically less in the product that you're applying than there is. Next, let's crack open the dictionary. So we're gonna talk about talc's inertness. So basically when we say an ingredient has inert, it means that it doesn't really react easily to other substances. So in makeup products, this is a huge advantage. Talc doesn't alter the chemical composition of other ingredients, which means basically it's stable and safe to use in other formulations. This is extremely important in beauty products where stability is key for product longevity and performance. The last thing you want is your makeup to expire faster, start breaking down, interact, and have weird chemical reactions with other ingredients, and then you put it on your face and then you hurt yourself. We don't want that, right? Okay, so let's get into something a bit more on the sketch side of things. So talking about health concerns and asbestos contamination, that is, in my opinion, the number one thing I hear about when people are talking about talc. They immediately talk about asbestos. There's a lot of myth going around. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of outdated information. So let's talk about it. One of the biggest risks associated with talc, of course, is its potential for asbestos contamination. No lie there. So asbestos, if you don't know, is a naturally occurring mineral that when it's inhaled or, touches your skin, it can cause very serious health problems such as lung cancer and other respiratory issues. So asbestos exposure has been linked to a lot of different types of cancers and whatnot. And that's exactly why talc has come under fire when it comes to personal care products. Now, don't get me wrong, while not all talc contains asbestos, the concern arises from the fact that talc and asbestos are often found in close proximity in the earth. So basically they're like button heads, and when you're mining talc, you're sometimes incorporating that asbestos into the mixture, which is not what we want. That's what's led to the increased fear that contaminated talc might be used in cosmetic products, thinking that, okay, we're just, incorporating talc for all the good things that we've already talked about, but there's always that fear that, is there also cancer-causing asbestos in it? So I understand people's concerns. But with that being said, the US Food and Drug Administration does not require special approval for talc in cosmetics, which I really feel like that surprises me, especially something that's so widely used and so heavily criticized. I feel like they should require some sort of special permissions or approvals. To me, that's very strange, but they do regulate that talc used in these products must be free from asbestos. That is a requirement. So there are studies that happen. There are experimentations that are going on. There's testing that's going on. It's not like people are just mining talc and being like, oh, maybe there's asbestos, maybe there's not. So while this has led to more rigorous testing of talc being used in cosmetics, it still raises a little bit of concerns from potential consumers about its potential contamination. But I do want to make note, because it is important, the vast majority of cosmetics that use talc, they undergo very thorough purification to ensure that it's asbestos free, but that doesn't stop the concerns from lingering. So you could absolutely walk up to someone, do the tests right in front of them, just absolutely assure them that there is no asbestos in this product that has talc, but guess what? There's always that chance, you know what I'm saying? There's always technically a chance. But I just think it's one of those things that people have talked about for so long that even if the Food and Drug Administration said, we came up with a test, we know for 110% that there's absolutely no asbestos whatsoever touching this talc and included in this talc, in this mixture, in this product, etc. people are still going to talk about it. They're still going to say it, and they're still going to be worried, and that's just human nature. But let's get to something a bit more positive, shall we? So we're going to talk about some talc-free makeup alternatives. So given the risks that we've already talked about, a lot of consumers and beauty experts, professionals, all the things, content creators, everyone, people are now opting in for talc-free makeup products. And thankfully, the beauty industry is responding positively. More and more brands are offering talc-free alternatives. They're often replacing talc with ingredients like silica or kaolin clay, rice powder, cornstarch. But it makes me sit there and wonder, I'm like, if it's so easy for you to replace talc, which is still a heavily criticized ingredient, regardless of how much of a risk it truly is, if it's so easy for you to swap out that ingredient with a variety of other ones and still get either the exact same result or something super, super close, why bother even using talc at all across the board? Why even have that potential worry in anyone's mind whatsoever? Do you know? But let's talk about what some of the benefits are by using these alternatives. So for one, they don't often carry the same concerns as talc in terms of potential contamination. So ingredients like rice powder and cornstarch are naturally derived and are typically well tolerated by most skin types. So for me, I have very sensitive skin. So to be quite honest, maybe I should start looking into utilizing more talc-free products because maybe that'll actually help me in the long run. Silica is another popular alternative. It's very light, it's absorbent. You've seen those little silica packets that are in like your new shoes and book bags and whatever, things like that. It's because it will naturally absorb moisture. Also, silica is known to not clog pores, which is a huge deal for a lot of people. So it makes it a great option for those of us with sensitive or acne-prone skin. Now, while talc-free products are still on the rise, it's just not changing over just because of safety. There's also things that these ingredients offer that are unique in their benefits. They're still able to provide the smooth texture, the oil control, and the blendability that talc provides, all while being free of the controversies that are associated with talc. Why wouldn't you want to use a product and have in the back of your mind less worry? I feel like that's a no-brainer. But now we're going to go into a different direction, and we're going to talk about some of the legal and health controversies surrounding talc and just talk more about the legal side of things. So asbestos contamination is not just a health concern. It's also become a legal issue over the last many years. I can't imagine there's many people listening to this right now who have not seen if you or someone you know has had mesothelioma, you know what I mean, because of asbestos. Like that's such a normal thing, I feel like, in people's memory. So this has been talked about for a long time. There have been numerous lawsuits over the years, particularly involving talc-based baby powders, which have been accused of causing cancer in long-term users. That's one thing I've heard about a lot. I feel like when I really got deeper into the conversation surrounding talc, it wasn't in regards to makeup, it was in regards to baby powder and personal care items. And then I just started expanding the research I was doing and what I was looking into, and I was like, wow, this is a huge ingredient, a very common ingredient in makeup, which I'm applying to my face. Because originally I was like, well, I don't use baby powder or things like that. This concern doesn't affect me. Then I was like, when I realized, oh my God, it's in makeup too, I'm like, oh, it does concern me, it does affect me. Now, the science is still being heavily debated, and it's, at the end of the day, inconclusive. These lawsuits definitely have brought a lot of attention to the issues, and some companies have faced significant legal battles, and in response to these types of issues, they have reformulated their products and just essentially have removed talc altogether. It's one of those like, rather be safe than sorry moments, you know what I mean? And it also, I feel like, brings in a little bit more customer or consumer trust. If this topic is being brought up to a massive beauty brand and they're using talc in all their products and their overwhelming outcry is that they don't want talc, it's one of those things like, it takes a lot of money to reformulate a product. It's no easy chore. It's not an easy or a cheap chore, but it is very, very, how do I want to say it? It speaks volumes when a brand is willing to spend that money to reformulate a product they already love, that people are still buying no matter what, to reformulate it to one that's talc-free to appease the masses. At the end of the day, they're doing it so that you keep buying their products, but technically they don't have to do that. You know what I mean? They're still wanting to provide you with a good product. And if the majority of people are really not liking the whole talc inclusion in their products, I do think it's a great idea for people to, at the very least, have an additional version of certain products that are talc-free and just let people make up their own choices, make up their own mind. I feel like one of the best results that have come from these public legal battles is the fact that there's a lot more conversation surrounding talc, because you may be one of those people who, like myself until a little while ago, was not that educated in the whole world of talc, the concept of talc, the controversies surrounding talc. You may have heard, a comment here and there, but, hopefully by listening to this, you're learning a lot and you can take this information and make your own more educated opinions on this entire topic in tandem in regards to what products you're using on a daily basis. Now, another aspect that is concerning when it comes to talc is the environmental impact on talc mining. So beyond health concerns, there's also environmental impact. So talc is often mined, like I mentioned before, in large quantities, and the mining can have serious environmental consequences. In some of the regions that I mentioned above, talc mining has led to deforestation, habitat destruction, and water contamination from mining runoff. That's not good. If you're like me, I love animals and wildlife more than people any day of the week. The last thing I want is to knowingly, consciously be contributing to the destruction of their homes, their habitats, that they themselves, their existence. Like, that's devastating. So these concerns are primarily focused on the industrial mining of talc and not its cosmetic use. So I just wanted to clarify that. But it does still raise important questions about the sustainability of the beauty industry, because the extraction of talc, like many other natural resources, does require careful management to prevent ecological damage. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's a specialty. You can't just walk down a cliff and be like, oh, here's some talc, let me grab my pickaxe and dig it out. Like, no, there's actual processes, procedures, protocols to ensure that there's proper storage and mining and transportation of talc. Because again, they don't know in that moment if that talc that they're mining has asbestos. So let's finally talk about the future of talc in cosmetics. As we've seen, talc is a complex ingredient. It's been a beauty industry staple for decades. It's, again, helped to create those smooth, long-lasting makeup textures. It provides the texture that you want. It gives the moisture absorption you need, and it ensures products don't clump or cake. But however, with the growing awareness of its potential risks, both health-related and environmental, not to mention legal, the beauty industry is shifting a little bit, and I don't think that's a bad thing. Talc-free products are gaining popularity at the end of the day, and ultimately what I'm seeing the most from beauty consumers, again, it doesn't matter if I'm a creator or not, I'm still a consumer first and foremost. And overall, the demand for safer, cleaner beauty products is at an all-time high. So let me leave you with one final question. Should you still use talc-based products? That's ultimately up to you. At the end of the day, it's about balancing the benefits with the potential risks, like everything else in life, and ultimately choosing products that align with your own personal values and needs. At the end of the day, no one tells you how to spend your money. No one tells you what products to use. You do. Only you. You make that decision for yourself, period. In my opinion, talc is always going to be a controversial ingredient. No matter how safe they say it is, or how much testing is done, it's always going to be considered a controversial ingredient. So if you want to have this conversation with somebody, make sure you go into it educated, because chances are the people you're going to be talking to about this topic are not going to be educated. And that's where you can slide and be like, guess what I learned from Cody Jay? And you can help to open up this conversation even further and educate other people so that it creates this more positive, transparent snowball effect. And with that, I want to thank you for tuning in to Cody Jay Uncensored. I hope today's episode has helped shed some light on the mystery surrounding talc. Whether you decide to stick with your talc-infused products or make the switch to talc-free alternatives, just remember to stay informed and always do what feels right for you. Until next time, stay curious, stay beautiful, and don't let anyone censor you.